Hey, hope everyone's having a great day so far. Today's topic is going to be my current movie rankings. So it's going to be from 0 to 10, where 0 is just totally unwatchable. 5 out of 10 is like average, and 10 out of 10 is just perfection. So now I'm just going to lay out all the movies I've ranked so far with some comments about them. Also, I've included books in this and TV shows, and it's kind of weird to put them together, but I'm not really I'm okay with that because I'm not saying, oh, this one's better than the previous one, because it's difficult to compare between the mediums. I'm just saying this is what I think about it. That's all. So, let's start at 10 out of 10. What I think is the best movie I've ever seen is The Prince of Egypt. It has really stellar animation and storytelling and music and everything, really. It's just a perfect movie. I think it was a great idea to turn the Book of Exodus into a movie. It's probably been done before, but I think that's probably the best time it's ever been done. So, right after that, I have Spirited Away, which I guess is kind of cliche. A lot of people say it's the best movie ever, and I thought it was great. It was phenomenal, but I don't think it was better than The Prince of Egypt. And I really enjoyed the world building in Spirited Away. I think it's a gorgeous movie. The music is really nice. It's a great movie. Right after that is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the first movie. So this movie is, well, all of them are gorgeous, but this movie is especially gorgeous. I think it really changed the realm of animation. And it's funny, it's exciting, it's well put together. It's a great movie. And so right after that, we have our first book, 1984 by George Orwell. And so I just thought it was a super interesting book. I chose to read it for my English class in high school because you can just talk about the book for hours and hours and not run out of things to say. So it's really easy to, write a book review, write an essay, anything like that. So that's why I chose it from my class. But it's really easy to read. A lot of the classic books are like almost impossible to read, so I really appreciated that. And it's really as good as everybody says it is. It's really intense. It says a lot about the world we live in. It's just a great book. Now let's begin the 9 out of 10s. So first up is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This is the second Spider-Verse movie, and it's just like candy for your eyes and your ears. It sounds great too. I thought Spider-Verse 1 was better from a story perspective, but this one is much better looking. I think it's probably the prettiest movie I've ever seen, because the first Spider-Verse was gorgeous, and this one is like 10 times better. It's a technical feat, but it's a little bit worse than the first one because, really just because it's not a complete story. It leaves on a cliffhanger. It's leading into the third movie, but that hasn't come out yet. Maybe once it comes out, I'll move it up to a 10 out of 10. Directly after that is Breaking Bad, the TV show. There just weren't any episodes that didn't need to be there. First of all, I don't really like TV shows, so there's gonna be like I think only like two on here, and it's because I get bored of them. And so what I really liked about Breaking Bad is every single episode was important. There were no filler episodes. All the acting was incredible. Bryan Cranston was great in that movie. And the last few episodes in particular were the best of any TV show I've ever seen. It was a really stellar ending. Now let's start the 8 out of 10s. The first one, oh, by the way, within the categories, I have these movies in order of how I like them. So, the first 8 out of 10 is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I really enjoy. It's one of those movies where it doesn't try to be particularly great. It doesn't try to, win Academy Awards or anything like that. But what it does try to do, it does completely perfectly. I thought it was one of the most fun movies I've ever seen. It just completely nails the typical 80s teenage story. And it's just a blast to watch. Following that, we have a total 180 in terms of tone. We have Malcolm X, the one from 1992. So first of all, it's like 3.3 hours long, but it really justifies its own length. Now, the thing about long movies is I really don't like them. Like, they have to... If a movie's 3 hours long, to me, it has to be nothing short of incredible, because, like, why are you going to make an average movie 3 hours long? I'm not watching all of that. But with Malcolm X, it was all deserved. It needed that runtime, and it made sense. So, I've already spoken about it. Secondly, Denzel Washington's acting in this movie is some of his best. In my opinion, he's the greatest actor of all time, and this is some of his best work. So some of the best acting there's ever been. Also, the music was great in this movie. All the original sounds and also the songs that were taken from that people have already made. Also, the story, I think, is extremely important. Not a lot of people know a lot about Malcolm X. They just see him as like the evil MLK. And so he has a really interesting life. The movie kind of slows down a lot whenever he's like hanging around the Nation of Islam. I really didn't... That part's not bad, but it's definitely... It slows down to develop his character a little bit, which is fine, but it was like 5% boring. But that's really my only issue with the movie. Right after that is Death Note, the TV show. And, most of it was like a 9 out of 10, really. But the show fell off like super hard in the last few episodes when, I guess, not that anyone's really going to see this, but I guess this is going to be a spoiler-free review. So in the last couple episodes, when something major changed, the show really fell off. And so I can't give it a 9 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed the plans that everybody came up with. Like all the 1 billion IQ stuff. Right after that is The Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. Um, so I watched this a long time ago. Oh, by the way, a lot of these movies I watched a long time ago, and so some of them that I watched more recently are going to get better reviews. Not in terms of the number, but in terms of what I'm able to talk about, what I remember from it. So it's going to be a mixed batch. But so I watched this movie a really long time ago, and I don't know if I just wasn't paying attention, but I didn't understand it at all. It made no sense. But I watched it again recently, and it was really good. So you have to really pay attention to get what's happening to get the full effect, but it's definitely worth it. It's a really heartbreaking movie. With a lot of stuff about romance and memories and things like that. And also, it's one of Jim Carrey's best acting performances. I really like Jim Carrey. He's one of my favorite actors. He doesn't do a lot of serious roles, but when he does do them, they're really, really incredible. So, after that, we have Whiplash. Um, First of all, the music is incredible. Some of the best music in any story. I really, really like the visual design of Whiplash. It's a really pretty movie, and it's a really intense movie. I think the idea of someone pushing themselves to the limit and that maybe not being a good thing is really interesting, because you always see movies or TV shows or stories in general where somebody, they want to get better and they're just pushing and pushing and pushing, and then they get better at the end and they win. But in this movie, he pushes himself and he gets better, but it's kind of like a dark ending, like, oh, he got better, but at what cost? And I think that's interesting. So next is going to be Get Out by Jordan Peele. It has Jordan Peele's usual, like, top tier suspense. He's a really great horror director, and it's probably my favorite horror movie. It's not like a jump scare kind of movie, but it's very, very suspenseful, very creepy, very scary. It's also a funny movie, but like at the right times. A movie can be funny and terrifying, and it's hard to balance the two, but this movie does a great job. So, next is Kiki's Delivery Service. So this movie is like 95% vibes and 5% story. And I'm totally fine with that, but it does lack an interesting story. There is a story, but it's very, very simple, and that's not where the meat of the movie is. I really like the sense of whimsy that's there in like every single Ghibli movie. And also, it's a gorgeous movie. Might be Ghibli's prettiest movie that they have so far. After that is American Psycho. It's pretty good. Patrick Bateman, that's not his name. The actor for Patrick Bateman does an incredible job in this movie. It's really impressive. I think the movie's a little overhyped. Like some people say it's like top 10 like greatest movies of all time, but I don't know about that. It's still really great though. I like the music in it. I like the story. The story's really great, but I guess that the story came from the author of the book, not the movie. And one particular detail I love from this movie is how it shows Patrick Bateman's psychosis, because it'll show him like yelling at somebody like, oh, screw you, but and then it'll have like a really weird edit, and it'll be as if that never happened, to kind of show you that it was in his imagination. And I really enjoy when it did things like that, but a little bit subtly. So if you look away for a second, you miss it. And I really appreciate that it trusted the audience to, understand what was happening. Right after that, we have Blazing Saddles by, I don't remember. And so this movie's really good. It's really, really funny. I think it's probably the funniest movie I've ever seen. It's super funny. It's yeah, that's really all it has going. Is just how funny it is. But one thing I didn't like about this is the musical numbers, where it totally interrupted the flow of the movie for them to perform a musical number, and the music wasn't that good. It was just like a basic whatever musical. And so they have one of those at the end of the movie. Like that's the last section of the movie is a musical. And it totally ruins the end of the movie. Like literally when that starts, I just turn off the movie. The movie should have ended like 15 minutes earlier. But other than that, it's super duper funny. After that, I have Us by Jordan Peele. I really, really couldn't look away from this movie for like a good hour and a half right in the middle. It was it was extremely suspenseful and scary for a really, really long time. But the beginning and the end were a little lame. Like the horror really died off at those parts. But other than that, it was great. Right after that, I have A Walk to Remember, which is it's really not a lot of people like this movie. I think it's really great. I feel I couldn't put it any lower than an 8 out of 10. If it makes me cry, which it did, I can't put it lower than an 8 out of 10. It's really not that incredible, but it made me cry. I can't go any lower. Next is La La Land, which honestly was way earlier, but I skipped it somehow. It was right after Kiki's Delivery Service. So I usually don't like musicals, but I really, really liked La La Land. The beginning, like the first song was really boring, but the rest is great. It's a really gorgeous movie, and the romance is some of the best in any movie I've ever seen. And also, I love the music, except for the first song. And now we begin the 7 out of 10s. The first one, Everything Everywhere at the End of Time. So a lot of people have this movie really, really high on their lists. It's like one of the 10 greatest movies of all time. And maybe I just didn't get it, but it was just pretty good. That's all. The ending was super good, and I liked the relationship between the mother and the daughter. And I feel like the score I gave it would go up if I actually understood the movie, but I don't think I really got it, and that's okay. After that is The Batman. So, I thought it was a little overhyped when it came out, but it's still really good. It's very, very pretty. It's the prettiest superhero movie, I think. And it has a really good story. It felt too long, I think. I don't know how long it is, but it's longer than it needs to be. And I really appreciated this depiction of Batman. It was super different from the previous ones. And also I thought the edginess in the movie was a little bit silly sometimes. It was good most of the time, but sometimes it was like, okay, you're doing too much. After that is All Quiet on the Western Front. It was at times a fun war movie, but other times it was like really heartbreaking and one of the best condemnations of war I've ever seen. And by the way, this is the modern one that was made in Germany. There are a bunch of other movies of All Quiet on the Western Front. I'm talking about the new one. The violence was extreme and excessive, but that was the point of the movie, and I thought it was effective at pushing an anti-war theme. Now, a lot of people don't like this movie because they thought it didn't do a good job at pushing an anti-war theme. They thought it was pro-war because it turns people's suffering and their deaths into entertainment, which in a way it does, and that does take away from, the point of the movie. But I think that's just a limitation of being a modern movie. You have to entertain people to make any money, to get made, for the movie to actually get finished. And so I think for the limitations of being a movie, I think it did a wonderful job. Up next is The Boy and the Heron. Just like all other Ghibli films, is gorgeous, and it has really great music. It kind of confused me. I really didn't get it. And maybe I need to watch it again. But I watched it in the theater, so I wasn't, distracted or anything. Some scenes were a 10 out of 10, but the rest of it was just a little confusing for me, but that's okay. After that is Barbie. For me, this was just one of the funniest movies I've seen. I thought the acting was great. It was very, very silly. My favorite thing about it was how silly it was, honestly. It knows it's a movie, and it knows it's kind of a goofy idea, and it just goes into that, and it says, we'll just have fun with it, and I appreciate when movies do that. Also, I liked how it was overtly feminist. I thought that was pretty nice. I feel like a lot of movies would have shied away from that aspect, but Barbie it did that, which is great. I respect it for that. After that is the Elvis movie. The first half was really good. The music was great, obviously. Austin Butler's performance was really incredible. He really captured the aesthetic of Elvis, and he made Elvis cool, Elvis is kind of your grandma's music, but he made Elvis cool and sexy and scary. So the first half was really good, but the second half was a little boring. The pacing really slowed down. Right after that is Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. It's obviously nothing amazing, but it's a fun movie. Just like Barbie, I really, really appreciate how it's kind of goofy. It understands that it's a movie, and it just plays into the silliness. Yeah, that's my favorite part of it, is how it prioritizes being silly over any real world logic. Like Jack Sparrow does a lot of weird things that aren't possible, but it's goofy, and so it's okay. After that, I have another book, The Will to Change by Bell Hooks. So it was the first piece of media that made me introspect in a really long time. It said a lot of things that I hadn't considered before and put into words, a lot of things that I'd already felt but couldn't articulate. So the reason I read this book was because I wanted to read more about feminism. I was always interested in it, but I don't know, I kind of realized that I'd never read any of the OG literature for it. So it was pretty good. After that is Grave of the Fireflies. So, honestly, I thought this movie would be a lot better. I thought it was gonna. Apparently, it's supposed to be like the saddest movie of all time, which I understand. But I was expecting something different. I thought it was gonna have like really strong, like emotional hits that would like make you cry. But what happened in reality was that the whole movie was just miserable. Which, yeah, it makes the movie sad, but it also made it a chore to like get through. And I think being miserable throughout the movie was effective for what it was trying to do. This movie does what the modern All Quiet on the Western Front fails to do. It depicts war in a way that 100% condemns it. There's no cool action scene, there's no intense fighting and drama. It's all like just miserable. And unlike All Quiet on the Western Front, this movie suffers because it's not entertaining even a little bit. So I respect that it kind of stood up. I respect it because the movie did not back down from what it was trying to do. And I respect that it took that hit in terms of entertainment for the sake of the point that it was trying to make. But at the end of the day, it's not an entertaining movie. I would never watch it again. It's a really great movie, but it's not entertaining. Right after that is Deadpool and Wolverine. This was the best Marvel movie that Marvel has made in a really long time. It was goofy and kind of dumb, but I liked it. It's just like the other Deadpool movies. I really liked that it was like a tribute to the really crappy 2000s superhero movies. I'm a really big fan of those movies. They're so bad, but I just really like them because of that. And I love when movies are tributes to things, when they show that they're genuine. The worst thing a movie can do, in my opinion, is to like spit on its source material or like a genre or something, which I would have expected from a Deadpool movie, considering how meta it is. I would have expected it to make jokes at the expense of those movies and be like, oh, can you believe that garbage came out? But it really didn't do that. It just, it just showed its love for it, which I thought was great. Right after that is The Trial of the Chicago 7. It was thoroughly entertaining. For being an overtly political movie, it didn't really have a lot to say politically, other than what was already apparent. It was pretty good overall. I think the unique personalities of the main characters carried the movie a lot, which isn't the worst thing in the world. After that is El Camino. I really liked how it showed like the psychological trauma of working with Walter White and the Nazi meth lab, the trauma that the main character was dealing with. Also, it made me actually feel something at the end, which I thought, I had to respect that. I don't really have much to say about this one, though. After that is Black Panther 2. It kind of made me forget it was a part of Marvel's Phase 4, because it was so different from the rest of them, and it was actually good. Some of the CGI was pretty crazy, but other than that, it's an actually good movie, other than the rest of Marvel Phase 4. And I had to respect it for that. After that is Wild Hogs. It was totally a fine movie. Just pretty good. It made me laugh a few times, and it kind of took me back to when comedy movies used to be like a real thing, like an actual genre, instead of just family movies put under the comedy section. Yeah. Now we can start the 6 out of 10 section. My first 6 out of 10 is A Raisin in the Sun, the screenplay. I read it in the form of a book. And it was mostly just people kind of standing around talking. That's my biggest gripe with it. There was literally no nothing happening. There was nothing happening in the book. But with the people standing around talking, I think it did a really great job at exploring themes of poverty, race, dignity in a unique way. My favorite part of this was when, at the end, some white guy came to their house and was telling the family, he was saying, "Oh, I can buy your house to get you out of the neighborhood because we don't want black people here." And instead of taking the money like the father had done through his whole life, at the risk of his dignity, he said, "No, screw you, I'm staying." And he stood his ground, and he turned down the money for the sake of his dignity, and I really liked that. Right after that is Bottoms. It was just really funny. Again, my favorite part is just that it doesn't take itself seriously at all. It's just really goofy. After that, we have Bad Boys Ride or Die. This was the new Bad Boys movie, and it's totally fine. It was super funny when I watched it, but I watched it with my friends, so I probably wouldn't be as funny on my own. And once again, I really enjoyed that it didn't take itself too seriously. The next one is The Nice Guys. I just thought this was funny and entertaining. It was just a totally okay movie. A pleasure to watch, but it didn't do anything all that crazy. After that is Fall Guy. I enjoy that it was made with a passion for stunt actors. I really love when movies do that, when they truly care about something. Also, Ryan Gosling's acting was fun. He's a fun guy. Right after that, I have Sonny's Blues by James Baldwin. And this book is really kind of depressing and somber, and it doesn't have much of a story. Kind of does, but not much of one. But the strong vibes kind of carry it, and being carried by your vibes kind of works for movies. I think I had Kiki's Delivery Service way higher, which has the same issue, but it doesn't really work for books because I don't know, there's no aesthetic to the book. It's you're reading words. You're not looking at the gorgeous pastel landscapes in Kiki's Delivery Service. You're just reading just a really sad story, which is okay. Next is The Life of Brian. Once again, I just love how silly it was. I love me some movies that don't take themselves seriously. It's a really funny movie, but sometimes the pacing gets super crazy. In the middle of the movie, they go on a trip to outer space or something, and the movie's about Jesus. So I don't even. It's crazy. Next is The Black Klansman. It was just okay. I thought it seemed a little bit confused about the direction it wanted to take, where it was like a little bit funny and a little bit political and a little bit action, but not enough of any one thing to be all that interesting. Up next is Unbroken. I thought it was just fine. A good survival story. I'm glad the Pacific theater of World War II got some love. You see a lot of World War II movies that happen in France or in the United Kingdom or Belgium or whatever. But, it was cool to see Japan and the Pacific Islands. Nothing crazy really happened, though. Now we can begin the perfectly average movies. 5 out of 10. First up is Call Me By Your Name. So this is kind of a low ranking for this movie, I think. A lot of people say it's like really, really great, but I think it's a little overrated. The one thing it has going for it is it's completely gorgeous. It's a really pretty movie, but that's really all it has. Maybe I just didn't get it though. I'm not exactly its target audience. Right after that is American Gangster. I think it's carried super hard by Denzel Washington. Denzel Washington is in a lot of terrible movies that he makes just okay, like just by him being in it. The movie's way longer than it needs to be and constantly alternates between like really, really good and really bad. There are a lot of extremely intense scenes in this movie. Throughout the movie, and it's like little specks of hope in the movie, like it's almost good. And the rest of it is super boring. Up next is Hacksaw Ridge. It's about the story of the guy who was a conscientious objector saving people. And the real life story is totally crazy, but as a movie it's just alright. There's nothing. The movie doesn't do anything crazy, but the real life story is crazy. Right after that is Better Call Saul. And this is also a pretty low ranking for this TV show. A lot of people say it's one of the best TV shows ever, and I really didn't like it. I thought it was super boring. I really enjoyed the cartel stuff, but the lawyer stuff was really boring. Right after that is The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. So the first two stories were pretty good. And the third one was terrible. I was actually mad at the third one. I was like, oh my god, this sucks. And the rest were just okay. I really appreciate how brief the stories were and how unpredictable they were. After that is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So I only got to parts 1, 2, and 3. Combined, they're a 5 out of 10. Part 1 is a 7 out of 10. Honestly, it was my favorite part. It was exactly the right length for me. It was really short, and it was just the action was great. It was really entertaining. Part 2 was a 6 out of 10. It was basically the same. It's just a little bit worse. Not quite as entertaining. And part 3 was a 2 out of 10. It made me quit. I could not get through the their I don't know what it's called, like their journey like across the world. It was full, like 80% of part 3 was filler, and that just made me really mad and I gave up. Right after that is Long Legs. So this was marketed as like the scariest movie of all time, and it was not scary even a little bit. A lot of times it was like really funny, but it unintentionally funny. I really liked the 70s psychological horror style of it, but that's really it. Other than that, it's boring. Alright. Right after that is Thor: Love and Thunder. It was honestly, this rating is too high. It was not good. It was almost there was like almost a fun movie like hiding underneath a bunch of Marvel formula, but it was just okay. It was like you could see the director's vision, and then on top of that, Marvel and Disney just put a poo poo pile on top of it. So let's start the 4 out of 10s. Up first is Brave New World. This is like the 1984's arch nemesis, and it's not even close. Apparently it was written in like 4 months, and it really shows. It's not good. It's super duper boring. Also, one thing in particular I really hate is the way it uses future terminology. It'll like make up words for things in the future, but the words are really bad. It's like Aldous Huxley is trying to be like Dr. Seuss, trying to be like yesterday I ate Hootswaddle and Gimgosh. Just random made up words, except they were really not good. Right after that is Hereditary. At times, it was like super duper gnarly, and like you can't look away. It's like watching a car crash. But that was only like 10% of the time, and the rest of the movie was really, really boring. Alright. Right after that is Hello, Dolly, which is a really old movie. The whole movie is kind of average, but it was like really fun. It's a silly, fun movie with really high energy, and that kind of carries it. Also, the songs are just going to be stuck in my head forever. I really like the songs. And in general, it's a couple of really great moments surrounded by a really bad movie. Now we're in the 3 out of 10s. This is when it gets really bad. First up, The Catcher in the Rye. Now this is a classic book, and I really hate it. It's super, super boring. I really liked the teenage angst that it showcased, but other than that, there are no redeeming factors. Right after that is The Wolf of Wall Street. This is another piece of media that other people really like, but I just can't stand. It was kind of an okay movie for just dumb entertainment, but it has no redeeming qualities. I was hoping it would say something interesting, but it just kind of ended up being a typical rated R bro fest. Now we can start the 2 out of 10s. The first one is Bad Boys from 1995, the first one. I wanted to watch this after watching the new Bad Boys movie, because I really liked that one. And this movie is really, really bad. I don't know how they made so many sequels. The action so it's an action comedy movie, and the action is bad and the comedy is bad, and it was boring. Right after that is Red, White, and Royal Blue. This movie, the other movies are like trying to be good. This movie is just really bad, and it knows it. It's a really ugly movie, and it's dumb. I don't know what else to say. Now, I don't have any 1 out of 10 movies, but I do have one 0 out of 10 movie. It's in a category on its own, and it's Borderlands that came out recently. It is completely unwatchable. I fell asleep. I watched this movie in the movie theater with like 10 of my friends, and every single one of us fell asleep. And we were the only people in the theater because nobody wanted to watch it. So in an empty theater with just 10 of us, and we all fell asleep. It was really, really bad. So those are all the movies, TV shows, and books that I have ranked so far. Moving forward, I might make a single video dedicated to a single piece of media. but I don't know. Alright, so with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I hope everyone has a wonderful day. I'll see you later.